In this video, we're going to do our very best to answer the question, what team has the best quarterback, wide receiver trio in the NFL? The data scientists cracked out the latest data. Actually, we used PFF for this, so we took the team's leading quarterback in terms of PFF rating. Some of these guys, as you will see, are currently injured, but regardless, they're number one QB in terms of rating, and their top two wide receivers, of which you will also get some guys here that are injured. But on the season, these are the top two wide receivers for each team, according to PFF ranking. So let's jump right in here. We start off our list with the Indianapolis Colts. Matt Ryan is the highest rated quarterback for them. Michael Pittman Jr. coming in at 71.5 is their number one wide receiver. And Alec Pierce from the University of Cincinnati comes in with 63.1. Next up, the New England Patriots. Mac Jones has a tough road here. He has a 63.5 rating as a quarterback. Jacoby Myers, a pretty good number one wide receiver. Nelson Aguilar, unfortunately the only number two on this list that is not rated 60 or higher. Next up, we head over to New York, the Jets. Zach Wilson, the worst rated quarterback on this list by far. Garrett Wilson, a heck of a number one wide receiver. Bright future ahead for him. And Corey Davis is their number two. We follow that up with the Carolina Panthers. Philip Walker, their quarterback. Terrace Marshall Jr., the number one wide receiver. And DJ Moore. From there we go to Chicago, where Justin Fields has a 72.8 rating. His number one target is Darnell Mooney with a 69.2. And I know I'm going to get the name wrong here, so we're just going to say his number two wide receiver is St. Brown. Pittsburgh is up next on our list, with Mitchell Trubisky being the highest rated QB between him and Kenny. Deontay Johnson is the number one wide receiver. And solid rookie George Pickens, who again, like Garrett Wilson, I think has a heck of a future ahead of him, comes in at number two. The Denver Broncos, Russell Wilson, 65.7 QB rating according to PFF. Jerry Jeudy, his number one wide receiver, and Courtland Sutton, the number two. The Houston Texans, surprisingly, score higher up this list than I would have thought. Their accumulated QB and wide receiver total is 207.1. That is Davis Mills, Nico Collins, and Brandon Cook. To Atlanta we go, with Marcus Mariota being the number one QB. Drake London, again, one of those rookies with a heck of a future ahead of him. And Drake London's number two. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, so I won't embarrass myself, but he comes in with a 68.2 rating. The Washington Commanders are up next on the list. Carson Wentz is their number one rated QB at a 63.1. Terry McLaurin, certainly the number one wide receiver, one of the better ones in the NFL, and his partner is Curtis Samuel. The Arizona Cardinals up next. Kyler Murray, 67.1. Of course, D-Hop with a 76.9 is the number one wide receiver, and Marquise Brown comes in really close to Hopkins with a 73.6. Another evenly matched pair goes to the New York Giants, with Daniel Jones being the number one QB. Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton scoring pretty much equal. Then we head down to Jacksonville, where the Jaguars have Trevor Lawrence, is one of the better young QBs in the NFL. Christian Kirk and Zay Jones are his primary target. The Tennessee Titans are up next. Ryan Tannehill gets a 76.2 grade, and his wide receivers are Treylon Burks and Robert Woods. And you'll never know what could have been this year, building off of the Super Bowl championship. The Rams come in next on the list. Matthew Stafford wasn't really having the season that you would have hoped he would have, but again, a lot of that due to injury. Cooper Kupp is their number one wide receiver, one of the best, maybe the best in football, and Allen Robinson II is his number two. Tom Brady pops up next with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 78.5 rating for Tom. His wide receivers, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, again, very evenly paired. The Baltimore Ravens, about midway on the list here, known for defense, but obviously Lamar Jackson, one of the better quarterbacks in the entire NFL, a tremendous grade at 85.2. Demarcus Robinson, his number one, and Devin Duvernay, the number two. And I believe they are one of only two teams on the list that both of their wide receivers do not have a grade of 70 or higher. So, Baltimore, get Lamar some help. The Dallas Cowboys are up next. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup all combined to get a rating of 223 points. The team ahead of them combines for 223.1 points. That is the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy G was the number one rated QB. Brandon Ayuk as the number one wide receiver, and Deebo Samuel not far behind. The Green Bay Packers are next on our list. Aaron Rodgers, of course, the number one QB. Randall Cobb, his primary target. and Christian Watson, the rookie, the number 2. The Las Vegas Raiders are up next on the list, and disappointing season for what I think most of us thought was going to happen. Derek Carr, certainly their QB. Devontae Adams having a sensational season, a 90.9 rating, our first 90 on the list. And Mac Hollins is the number 2, and there is a significant drop-off. And actually, this is the largest drop-off on the list between the number 1 wide receiver and the number 2. Into the top 10. At number 10, we have the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff, numbers-wise, according to PFF, having an okay season. I think he's doing better than the numbers suggest. Amon-Ra St. Brown, a fantastic number 1 wide receiver, quickly becoming one of the better ones in football. And DJ Chark, the number 2. The LA Chargers up next. Of course, Justin Herbert is the QB. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, as you would think, the number 1 and number 2. And they are all very, very evenly matched. Actually, the numbers are 76.3, 76.5, 75.7. So you can't get closer than that. Up next on the list, the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, for my money, the best quarterback in football. His number 1 target this season is Juju Smith-Schuster, and Sky Moore, the number 2, having a pretty darn good rookie season. The Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins, always seems to be underrated. Here he is above Patrick Mahomes, at least in terms of wide receiver and quarterback trio. He comes in with a 77.1 rating. Justin Jefferson, again, one of the few wide receivers on this list, actually only 5 on the list, over 90 as a grade. And then Adam Thielen, the number 2. This is the 3rd largest drop-off between a number 1 and a number 2 on the list. Surprisingly to me, the New Orleans Saints are up next, only because I know Andy Dalton well. Actually having a pretty good season. Andy always had really good regular seasons. Our issue here in Cincinnati with Andy was the postseason, but he is getting the job done in the regular season. Rookie Chris Olave, again, fits the mold with Drake London, Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, Christian Watson, and a few others, having a very, very good rookie season. And then Traquan Smith is the number 2. All right, now we get into the top 5. This is the first of 3 teams on the entire list, all 3 in the top 5, that the number 1 and the number 2 wide receiver both grade over 80 points. And we start the top 5 in Seattle, where Geno Smith having a very, very good season, and his 2 targets are about as equally matched superstars as you're going to find, and DK Metcalf being number 1 and Tyler Lockett just barely behind at number 2. When you think of passing, when you think of a dominant quarterback, you think of Buffalo. Josh Allen is up next, one of only 2 quarterbacks on this list with a grade over 90. Actually, he's tied with Patrick Mahomes at the time of building this list with a 90.6 PFF grade. Stephon Diggs, a 90.3. And then Isaiah McKenzie, though, and another enormous drop-off. This is the 2nd largest drop-off on the list, behind the Las Vegas Raiders. Isaiah McKenzie coming in with a 66.5 rating. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. The top 3. At number 3, the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts, MVP this season for my money. In his targets, A.J. Brown, literally a steal from the Tennessee Titans. Don't know what they were thinking. If you're a Tennessee fan, you don't know what they were thinking, but they did it. A.J. having a heck of a season here, and Devontae Smith slowly coming into his own. He is graded with a 73.7. And then the top 2, it comes down to 2 teams, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Miami Dolphins. When we put together this list, I knew going in the Cincinnati Bengals were going to be the number 1 team. But I was wrong. At number 2, Cincinnati. Joe Burrow being Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks in football. Number 1 target, Jamar Chase. Missed 4 games so far this year with injury, but has had a solid season, working his way through the double and triple teams all year. Comes in with an 85.2 grade. And T. Higgins, guess what his grade is, ladies and gentlemen? It's an 85.2 as well. And then finally, as I mentioned, the number 1 team, the question we are answering with this video: who is the number 1 QB wide receiver trio in football? Well, according to the numbers here, and according to PFF, it is the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, 87.2, Tyreek Hill, a 92.4, and Jalen Waddle, an 81.5. What a fantastic trio. Certainly, no matter how you cut it, they deserve to be very, very high on everyone's list, if not number 1, as they are on ours. So what did you think of our list? Who do you think has the number 1 quarterback wide receiver trio in football? Let us know in the comments below. As always, if you have not subscribed to the channel, you like content like this, the Football Ranking Lab is going to crunch the numbers. This is what we do. We look at things in a mathematical way and put together these lists, hopefully entertaining you. So if you enjoy this stuff, subscribe to the channel. If you don't want to subscribe, at least give us a thumbs up. That would help us gain a little traction on the YouTube landscape. But regardless, I really appreciate you guys watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.